So dear all, let us start with this session on face. Now, some of the basic concepts about the face you should be knowing that face is highly vascular. And because it is highly vascular, we see that blushing that happens. Those fair people, whenever they go in sunlight, sometimes even when they get angry, their face becomes red like a tomato. That is because the face is highly vascular. It is very rich in sebaceous glands. It is very rich in the sebaceous glands. And because of that, those people with oily skin, they suffer. Continuous oil. I'm one of them. Continuous oil on the face. The advantage of people with oily skin is they don't the wrinkles appear very late. If their skin is dry, the wrinkles appear early, but oily skin, the wrinkles appear late. So that's one of the advantage. You keep on looking young, but you keep on looking horrible unless you wash the face again and again. Then there is lot of laxity in the skin, and because of that there is edema. The edema, whenever this there due to any systemic cause, the edema appears first on the face around the eyelid. Okay, then there are boils. There are, it's not that it is lax everywhere. On the ear and nose it is not so lax, rather it is very firmly attached. Okay, therefore because of this fixity of the skin to the cartilages of the bone, nose and ear, any boil over here is painful. Any boil over here is painful. And last but not the least, it is very elastic, very elastic and thick, because the only place in our body where muscles are attached to skin is face. Where muscles are attached to skin is face. And all these muscles are a part of a muscle called as Panniculus carnosus. Panniculus carnosus. Now, in lower animals like cow, horse, because their all the 4 feet are like this. If a fly sits here, they cannot do anything. If a fly sits here, we can hit the fly, but a cow and horse cannot do that. So therefore they have a continuous layer of muscle below the skin. So you must have seen when a fly sits on a horse or a cow, it moves the entire skin. So in lower animals, a muscle attached to skin is there throughout on the on the their thorax and abdomen. In our case, it is not there like this. So this feature of pannicular carnosus, a muscle attached to the skin, is there only in face, only in the face area of the human beings. Okay. So this facial muscles which arise from the second pharyngeal arch, the second pharyngeal or branchial arch, and are supplied by the facial nerve. Okay, they are supplied by the facial nerve. They lie in the superficial fascia of the face. They lie in the superficial fascia of the face. Inside that, of course, there will be nerves, vessels, along with the superficial fascia. There is no deep fascia on the face. No deep fascia on face. So there is no deep fascia at two places. No deep fascia at on the face, and there is no deep fascia on the abdominal wall. For good reasons, so that we can eat well. There is no deep fascia on the abdomen, and we can smile well. There is no deep fascia on the face. There is no deep fascia on the face, so that we can smile very nicely. Okay, otherwise smiling would not have been possible. Now, how are these muscles of the face, uh, how are they classified? How are they classified? Let us see. Best way to classify the muscles of the face is to classify them. These muscles basically are there either around the palpebral fissure or the eye. They are either around the eye or, so better word for this is palpebral fissure. Okay, they're either around the palpebral fissure or they are around the oral cavity. So here we call it oral fissure, or they are around the nose. Okay, so better to say around the nostrils. So three openings: the palpebral fissure, that is the eye opening; oral fissure, that is the opening of the mouth; and the nasal opening. So they are there around it. So when they are there around it, there will be a group of muscles. There will be a group of muscles which will act like a sphincter, and there will be group of muscles which will be acting like dilators. There are group of muscles which will be acting like dilators. Okay. Apart from this, there will be muscles around the ear. There will be muscles around the ear, and then there will be muscles on the scalp, and then there will be, lastly, there is the muscle on the neck. Muscles on the neck. Muscle of the neck is called as platysma. All of us can, uh, make that muscle very firm. I'll show you, if possible, all the actions of these muscles um, towards the end. Then muscles of the scalp, we have already seen the occipitofrontalis muscle. The occipitofrontalis muscle, the muscle of the scalp, we have already seen. Then the muscles of the ear, literally there are these two, three muscles: auricularis superior, auricularis uh, anterior, auricularis posterior. So these muscles, they change the shape, they move the ear. Now normally we are not able to move the ear, but lower animals, you can see they can move the ear. Lower animals, we see two movements of the ear. Lower animals, we see two movements of the ear. One is they can change the shape of the ear, and two, they can move the entire ear. So dog, if it is sleeping, it changes the shape of the ears. If there is any, sometimes you see the dog, the ears are fallen down, and sometimes they are, risen up. Elephant can move the entire ears. So we cannot move because these muscles, auricularis superior, anterior, posterior, they have become vestigial. Now let us see what are the muscles around the nose. So sphincters will close the nostrils. So name of that muscle will be compressor naris. And sometimes when people get angry, their nostrils get dilated, and their name is, dilator naris. You need not worry about all these muscles because their origin, insertion is not asked at first MBBS level. Okay, but in further study, somebody goes in plastic surgery, um, somebody goes in cosmetic surgery, so all these muscles that person needs to know. So you should have a basic knowledge of these muscles. Okay, so there is dilator naris, depressor septi. So when a person becomes angry, the nasal septum becomes depressed, so the muscle is called as depressor septi. And muscle which closes the nostrils is called as compressor naris. Okay, now let us see the palpebral fissure. Muscle which closes or causes obliteration is called as orbicularis oculi, orbicularis oculi. So here will be orbicularis oris. So one which obliterates is called as orbicularis. So orbicularis oculi, orbicularis oris. So the orbicularis oculi will close the eyelids. Orbicularis oris which close the mouth. So whenever we are eating, we need to close the mouth so that eating, the mastication can continue, chewing can continue inside. So orbicularis oris. Orbicularis oculi, we close, orbicularis oculi will have three components: for gently closing, for tightly closing. Okay, so different components are there. Opener of the eyelids is one which elevates the eyelids, so called as levator palpebri, levator palpebri superioris, levator palpebri superioris. And also the occipitofrontalis, also the occipitofrontalis muscle helps. Now levator means elevates, palpebri means the eyelids, superior means upper eyelids. Now this muscle, almost from the point we get up till we sleep, is in a continuous contracted state like the diaphragm. It has a very high tone due to additional sympathetic innervation like diaphragm. So diaphragm and levator palpebris superioris are the two muscles in the body which are continuously contracting. Of course, levator palpebris superioris gets some rest in the night whenever we are sleeping in the night or sleeping during lectures, that time, or in when we are traveling in a bus, train, uh, levator palpebris superioris get some rest. Diaphragm never gets rest. So this is called as Orbeli's phenomenon, where these two muscles have an additional sympathetic innervation which increases their tone to such an extent that they don't get fatigued. Now, as regards the openers of the oral cavity is concerned, there are n number of muscles, you know, like for example, levator labii superioris, levator labii superioris. Okay, then will be depressor labii inferioris. So levator labii superioris will open the upper lip, depressor labii inferioris will open the lower lips. Okay, then there are many other muscles, because mouth is such a muscle which for whistling, for example, there is a muscle called as buccinator. Okay, so buccinator you need to know. Then for smiling, there is a muscle called as zygomaticus major and zygomaticus minor. Hmm? Then sometimes we make faces. So there is a face, make depressor anguli oris. So our lower angles of our mouth, they go down. Okay, depressor angularis oris. Then there is elevator angularis oris. This is for smiling. So when we smile, so all these smileys where we see the actions of all these muscles. So I'll try to explain it to you as much as possible. Now, for example, we draw show a smiley like this, smiley like this. So this is depressor, this is depressor anguli oris. So depresses the angle. So we show a sign of, I'm not happy, and we draw something like this. So here the angles of the mouth are elevated, angles of the mouth are elevated, and this is caused by levator. Mainly this is caused by zygomaticus major muscle, which is the muscle for smiling. Zygomaticus major and minor. Zygomaticus major and minor. This is how these muscles of facial expression are there. Their nerve supply of all these muscles, the nerve supply of all the muscles is by facial nerve, by facial nerve. So the motor nerve supply of the face is by facial nerve. Now let us see the sensory nerve supply of the face. Now in case of face, this is eye and this is the nose. This area from the angle of the eye onwards is by ophthalmic nerve. Even here is ophthalmic nerve. Here also is ophthalmic nerve. From the angle of the eyes, if I draw a line like this, so between these two lines, the nerve supply is by maxillary nerve, branches of maxillary nerve. And below down here, the nerve supply is by mandibular nerve. It is by the mandibular nerve. But again, the angle of the mouth, the angle of the mandible, the skin over the angle of the mandible, it has a special nerve supply. So this like for example, this external nasal branch of the ophthalmic supplies the tip of the nose. So tip of the nose is supplied by ophthalmic. So ophthalmic area of supply is like this. Okay, mainly like this. Hmm. And below the angle or below the angles of the mouth, it is mandibular nerve. But at the angle of the mandible, there is greater auricular nerve. Greater auricular nerve. So that the examiners have special interest at the tip of the nose, which nerve supply, at the angle of the mandible, which nerve supply. So that is about the um, mm, blood supply, nerve supply of the face. As regards the blood supply is concerned, blood supply is by facial artery, which you will be seeing in the dissection, facial artery. Now what happens is, if you are looking from the side, here is a muscle called as masseter, and at the lower angle of the masseter, the facial artery enters. And a tortuous course gives a inferior labial artery, superior labial artery, and goes here. And here are supraorbital, supratrochlear arteries. So facial artery has a tortuous course, and reason for the tortuous course is because we open and close the mandible. So therefore, the facial artery runs a tortuous course. It gives inferior labial branch. It gives a superior labial branch. Okay, near the for one inferior labial for the lower lip, superior labial for the upper lip, and then it gives a branch called as lateral nasal. So inferior labial, superior labial, and lateral nasal branch. The lateral nasal branch. So these are the branches of the facial arteries. Nerves you can go and study in details, but most of the nerves are the branches of the uh, most of the nerves are the branches of the trigeminal nerve, ophthalmic, maxillary, and mandibular. Now, as regards the venous drainage will remain same like that of the scalp. The uh, supratrochlear, supraorbital unite to form angular, angular continues as facial. Then there is retromandibular vein, retromandibular anterior branch of retromandibular unites to form common facial, and then posterior branch of it unites with posterior auricular to form external jugular. This drains into internal jugular, this drains into subclavian. So this all is okay, but then we have a dangerous area of the face, especially this area around the nose. We have seen the dangerous area of the scalp, which was the fourth layer. Now we are talking about dangerous area of the face. Dangerous area of the face drains. Why it is dangerous? Because it is draining into this facial vein, and facial vein posteriorly is connected to the pterygoid plexus. Pterygoid plexus of veins. Pterygoid plexus of veins. And pterygoid plexus of vein is connected with cavernous sinus inside the skull. Cavernous sinus inside the skull. That means any infection from this dangerous area can pass through facial vein, and then the deep transverse vein here is there, and through that, this through this deep facial vein which passes backwards, it can go into the pterygoid plexus, and from pterygoid plexus into cavernous sinus. Even the supraorbital, supratrochlear also draining into the cavernous sinus. So what is happening is, through this dangerous area of the face, any infection of the nose or around it can go to pterygoid plexus or go to and through that to cavernous sinus or directly to cavernous sinus. This can lead to cavernous sinus thrombosis. Cavernous sinus thrombosis. In the cavernous sinus, the third, fourth, sixth nerve are there. The venous drainage of the eyeball is draining into cavernous sinus. So cavernous sinus thrombosis, the eyeball will pop out because the venous drainage is not happening. 3 4 6, the movement of the eye will get affected because 3 4 6 are getting paralyzed, and the infection can spread inside the skull. So small infection, a boil in the nasal area, every time it may not happen. Even a great sinusitis in this area can cause cavernous sinus thrombosis. Students, believe me, I always thought this is theoretical, but one of my father's cousin, my uncle, got cavernous sinus thrombosis, and I saw his eyeball, getting enlarged, exophthalmos, because the venous drainage of the eyeball is in cavernous sinus, which has been thrombosed due to infection. I saw he almost his eye not able to move because 3, 4, 6 cranial nerve are which are passing through cavernous sinus are affected. So that's the applied anatomy of face. So we stop here. Thank you so much.